reach out to and speak with. And that's always the biggest challenge of finding a targeted individual. And that's where our firm comes in and helps them just work in that avenue and bring in these quality leads. My experience, though, previously was I've been in the insurance and the financial industry for about 5 to 6 years. Was in the health industry, was in the telecommunications industry, so a pretty diverse background.
Awesome.
So I guess
was in the health industry, was in the telecommunications industry, so a pretty diverse background.
Awesome. But yeah, okay. So Cole, obviously we have me and Cole Nichter, the two CEOs of Brotherhood Finance. Cole, I know we have some questions we want to ask Paul. Let's get going on those questions.
Just first question is, how many years have you worked with financial advisors?
Yeah, kind of like what I was alluding to before. I've been in the industry for about 5 years. I was myself a financial advisor, and that's what brought me into this industry, to be able to individually work with them. So the biggest thing that financial advisors are experiencing now is, because of the economic climate that we're in, there is a major influx of individuals, not just in the investment side, but also wanting to meet with experts. With the advent of Fidelity, Robinhood, some of these solutions out there where you can do your quote unquote your own investment portfolio, a lot of people are jumping into it, but they don't have the knowledge or the expertise.
Right.
So there's quite a few people that are just running to the doors of financial advisors to, I need direction, I need help, I need assistance, which is exciting for your podcast, because you are providing that wealth of knowledge to individuals to get them armed to make sound decisions with their money.
Right. And something I've noticed too, Paul, maybe you can provide a little bit of input, is I've noticed ever since they've started printing an excess amount of money, since we, had COVID-19 occur, there's been all this more fluctuations of money going to people's pockets, which is drawing a lot more new investors. And those new investors need that financial education so they can set themselves up with the future that they want and they desire, so they can have that financial freedom and they can set themselves up. And like you were saying, you've been getting more clients, especially more, people that have more cash on hand than before, because, they're printing all this money to keep the economy afloat. They need that guidance and they need that education to be able to make those proper investments.
Yeah, it's so true. There are a couple things when it comes to this current economic situation that we're in. The big thing is, obviously, with this, I won't get too political, but we'll call it the pandemic. But when you have this situation that we're in right now, where a lot of individuals have been stuck at home, yes, they had influx of cash because they've squirreled it away because they haven't been able to overextend themselves, whether through credit or buying more than what they actually need. But you also have, like you were mentioning, Brendan, this additional influx of stimulus funds that our federal government is basically just a printing machine when it comes to the dollar. All that money is coming into the market. Now, the reality is, yes, they have all this influx of cash. What do I do with it? And then you hear the economy is going very well, theoretically, right now. They don't understand the bubble.
I
want to be able to do something with this money. So what do I do? So they're obviously running in droves to experts to really learn, how do I utilize these extra funds that I have? Do I just buy more junk and throw it in my closet, or do I actually invest it in myself?
Right. So I guess the question I have that's kind of is, how did the pandemic kind of affect the way that people invested, not just long term but short term?
Two ways, I think. The first way is when you force individuals to start thinking for themselves, in the sense of, okay, do I get the vaccine? Where do I have work because I'm no longer working? Do I go on government assistance? Do I try and reinvent myself? How do I navigate this new world that I'm in? And because of that, now I'm also stuck at home. So I'm going to go online. you can still flip on the stupid box and watch news and then kind of get indoctrinated. But most people, and we're talking about investors now, we're not talking about your general populace. Most people went online and started doing research for themselves. And through that research, they're either getting fed fear, or they're getting fed, well, yeah, there's always fear. What do I do with this? So those two reasons, those two things that I think would change when it came to this pandemic. The first one was, do I start doing individual stock investments, meaning IPOs, crypto, specific stocks that they've been following? Do I do my own quote unquote portfolio based off these individuals? Because most people don't have the capacity to go buy funds. They have to typically go through some type of financial advisor to do the fund management. So yeah, you can go to Fidelity and buy funds, but you have no idea. These just look like letters on a screen. So the individual is like, okay, well, I know that name, that stock company, so I'm going to go buy that stock. That was the first big piece. The other thing that I've noticed is commodities. Now, we talked about crypto, but the other side of the world is commodities, silver and gold. And silver and gold, both of those,
God's monies,
just skyrocketed when it came to purchasing volume, and also the price for the individual commodities. They're finite, and because they're finite, like crypto, there's only so much, but it's also tangible. Depends on the investor. So you've got like the under 40 crowd. Crypto may be more the direction. The over 40 crowd, I want something tangible, something tactile.
Yeah, safer asset class, right? Like Robert Kiyosaki likes to say, it's God's money. And with silver, it's also good for innovating technologies. If Biden passes more construction plans and stuff like that, we're gonna need a multitude of silver. But yeah, Paul, I definitely agree. Something I was also talking with our the other CEO Cole about was the Wall Street's bets and all that stuff. These people that are getting more cash, like you were saying, they just get this cash, they get this liquidity, and they invest in these assets, and they don't know anything about them. They don't know what their balance sheets are, what the operating income of the company is, if they're a cash flow positive company, if they have good revenues. And these people are just diving into these stocks.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
People are just diving into stocks, and they don't have the right information. They don't even know how to read a balance sheet for a company. And it's like,
well, look at GameStop.
Yeah, or the GameStop thing. Like,
it really, because it's spiking.
It's crazy to me how many people just dive into something because they have the fear of missing out, or but they don't know how the fundamentals. Most people don't even understand that when you buy a stock, you're buying a small portion of that company. You're investing in that company. You believe that company is going to do well. You understand its fundamentals. You understand the product that it's selling, and that it's going to increase your return on investment for that asset vehicle that you're investing in. So I would definitely agree with what you're talking about in that point. And that's why at Brotherhood Finance, we try to educate people and increase their financial education about, how they can set themselves up with that future, that desire, and, how you can, obviously increase your return on investments and set yourself up for financial education. Real quick too, if you are watching, I appreciate it. Make sure to leave a like, make sure to smash that thumbs up button down below. If you have any questions while we're live, leave them down below as well. And I appreciate all the support.
Thank you. Yeah, so kind of just diving back to what we were saying a little bit. I guess this kind of goes with another question we have is what kind of clients do you work with?
Yeah, so kind of alluded to that a little bit. So my clients are the actual advisors. I don't work with individuals. So I work with either individual advisors, meaning that they've got a small practice. It's just them and maybe administrative staff, to firms where they could be an advisor that's been in the industry for 20, 30 years, and they've got 4 or 5 junior agents, and they're trying to continue to grow their business based on, I want my junior agents to be just as successful as I've been. So both of those are really my clients. And the attorney side, we work with a lot of estate planners. On the accountant side, a lot of accountants that are working with legacy planning, dealing with retirement taxes, things of that nature. And in the real estate, individuals that are still in the estate planning, some of them are REITs. So these are more of the higher end side. So for instance, we're not working with Edward Jones. We're not working with Raymond James. Great companies. I'm not knocking them. It's just those are more the meat and potatoes. Our clients are more wealth management type of advisors.
For sure. So I guess for people that are looking to go to financial advisors and things along those lines, I guess what kind of investing strategies do you oppose, not or that you kind of see as somebody that helps with financial advisors and somebody that, I'm guessing you invest yourself. What kind of strategies do you usually ask the person, especially if they do have like kind of a question about, hey, where should I go with this? Do you have any suggestions? What would your go-to answer be?
It's a great question. The challenge is there's three main factors when it comes to investment strategies. First off, we have to look at what are the goals. So is an individual 28 and they're looking to retire at 40, or are they going the career path and they're looking to retire at 60? So what is their goals in regards to when am I going to actually retire? What am I doing with these funds? The second thing is what is their liquid cash? Is this a small percentage of their actual income, or is this secondary income where it's more play money and they have the freedom to be more aggressive as opposed to conservative when it comes to their investing? And then the third piece is what is their risk philosophy? Right. So, they can still invest aggressively, but in the aggressive market, if they're done, there are some things that are very volatile, extremely aggressive, and then there are things that sound strange, but safe, aggressive investments where there's still going to be some volatility, but the growth is not going to be such a roller coaster. So really, it's depending on that individual. My investment strategies are always what is going to be my return short term, but also the philosophy of I've got two primary buckets. Within those two primary buckets, there's a lot of individuals, but the first primary bucket is my long-term investments where I don't touch. It's kind of like the Warren Buffett philosophy. You put something in that's going to grow 6 to 8% every year. It's going to grow 6 to 8% every year. You just don't touch it. Right. And you got another bucket where it's kind of your massaging, manipulating type of bucket where you can go to bonds, then go to funds, or go to commodities, go to crypto, go to individual stocks. It gives you more of that freedom to play with. Most individual investors don't have those two buckets because they don't have the large influx of cash to play around with that secondary playful bucket. So if it is, you've got one income stream and one true opportunity to make investments, I would still go long term, primarily because if they work with a financial advisor, that financial advisor 9 times out of 10 is managing their account quarterly, maybe biannually, every 6 months.
Right.
So if they want to start utilizing what you guys are teaching and educating and helping people, to become astute for themselves, that's going to be more their play money.
Yeah.
Because again, it's so up and down. If you have a lot of extra play money, great, but most people don't. So my investment strategy is always long term, and then it's based on those concepts.
Yeah, and Paul, I definitely agree with you on that standpoint. And what you were saying is a lot of people really don't, save and invest for their futures. Some statistics we say is 76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and I believe it's 46% of Americans can't cover a $400 medical expense. which is kind of outrageous. But something you were addressing and talking about earlier was how you have those different pots and those asset classes. And what you were talking about, I think is very smart, and a lot of people, need to, notice is you need to invest in the, have a little bit of diversification. So you have, those high risk, aggressive investments, and then you can have, the commodities where you have gold, silver, and, God's money, as Robert Kiyosaki likes to say, where, you're going to get that return on investment, but you're not at risk of losing 80% of your net worth in that asset vehicle. And then you can invest in crypto, which I always tell people, look, don't invest in crypto what you're not willing to lose, because crypto is still a very new and innovating space. And, also, I think it's kind of like the 1980s of the internet. Obviously, technology has always innovated and changed over time. So I tell people, don't, invest what you're not willing to lose, and understand why you're going to invest in that asset vehicle. Okay, so why are you going to invest in Bitcoin? Well, like you were saying, there's a finite amount of Bitcoin, kind of like how there's a finite amount of gold and silver unless they mine for more. So there's 21 million. But a lot of people, they just dive into a lot of crypto assets because, again, like we were saying, they have cash on hand, or they don't, they don't do their research, or, study the statistics and information to know how to invest. But I think being diversified, and like you were saying, having, a couple lump sums of cash in different asset vehicles is always a good idea. So then your money's not all in one pot, and if something was to happen, you wouldn't lose it. Also, on the other hand, to having, some commodities, some gold, some silver, or even a little bit of cash on hand, so then you can have some cash when those asset vehicles drop in value. So then you can buy the deflated asset price at a lower price and increase your return on investment when that investment goes up in price. So I definitely agree with that. And I think that those are some good points that I just wanted to touch on.
Yep.
For sure. So I guess, so talking about a little bit of the state of the market, what do you think to your kind of overall current, like, ideal state of the market right now? Where do you think it's going to go maybe in the next
and the market's been dropping a little bit recently. I've noticed the stock market, and crypto is still kind of on a little bit of a downturn. I think really if we see Bitcoin break the 32,000 and drop below, I think it went to 27. If it drops below that, I think we're headed for 24. And that's when I personally plan on buying more. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not, advise anyone to do that, but that's what I see. Those are usually the resistance levels that I've noticed for Bitcoin. I know Robert Kiyosaki also has mentioned, he said, biggest crash in world history waiting to pop. He said, investing in assets like silver and gold and Bitcoin, waiting for Bitcoin to drop to 24K. And I think he tweeted that out a couple months ago. We actually did a video on it with him and Michael Burry. So we'll see if he's right about that. But yeah, Paul, what do you think about this current market? Do you think we're in a bubble? What's your thoughts and opinions on it all?
Right now, a bubble is something where the economy is such that it has grown to a level where it's not sustainable. It's going to eventually pop. That's in a natural market. This is not really a bubble. It is an unnatural occurrence where we're standing, where our numbers are so high, unbelievably, unnaturally high, that there's a lot of money that's being pumped into it that is not from your natural consumer. It's coming from, I don't want to get conspirator, but basically we've got a lot of influx of numbers of cash that's coming into the market that is not reflective of what people have in their pockets, I guess.
Yeah. Or reflective of the economy, right? Because they're printing all this money to keep the economy afloat, which, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, it keeps the bubble even higher. But then you have other asset classes like real estate going up crazy. And a lot of people, it's funny, I don't know if you've noticed this, Paul, is obviously we know they print about 22.5% of every US dollar in the past 2 years. And I hear these people, my house went up in value 15%. I'm like, yeah, your house didn't even keep up with inflation. But I mean, it really just depends on the metrics that you look at it. But when they print all this money, what do you think's going to happen? But as Robert says, it's just getting the bubble worse. It's like a balloon. You keep blowing into it until eventually it pops. So now I feel like we're in a circumstance, Paul, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but where they're going to have to keep printing. Otherwise, things are going to start spiraling the other direction. And we don't want that for people's 401ks, their investments, all that stuff, things that our government is trying to keep afloat. And just like pensions, pensions are, they're broke. But what's your thoughts and opinions? Like you were saying, you said, obviously we're at a point where they keep printing money, but.
Well, it's not just here in the States. This is global. I was just reading an article that the world economy housing pricing, which is a major indicator of where the economy is actually going in regards to inflation and bubbles. The world economy with all the housing is about 20 to 22% higher than what it should be. So what that means is anytime that the housing market is 5 to 6%, higher than what it should be, that's a good market. When it's at 20, 22%, it's at a level where it's not natural.
Right.
And in 2008, the reason why we saw the crash is it was around that 19, 20%, way over what it should have been. Housing values and things of that nature. But that was more localized in the United States. The global economy is that way in Asia and European markets and throughout the United States and even in South America, where you have socialistic and communistic countries. Those markets, those housing markets are inflated. And again, the United States was not the only country to just spew out inflated fake money. Print. It was global. So that's what I'm talking about with this bubble. When we think of a bubble, it's, you got this balloon that's constantly being blown up. But the reality is, if we're going to use the balloon analogy, which I think works more than this bubble, because a bubble is, a soap bubble happens, it's natural. A balloon, you've got to fill it with something to make this thing inflate. But eventually that elasticity is going to pop.
Right.
And we are way beyond where it should have popped already. So
yeah.
I agree with you, gentlemen. Bitcoin or some form of crypto, Ethereum, whatever direction you want to go. Definitely commodities, silver, gold. Cash on hand, 3 months of your expenses is really a good number to have if you have that capability, just having that set aside, and then additional cash if you can. Whether if it's in individual stocks that you can sell quickly and move it over to, or in a money market fund, but some type of liquid cash that when the market does take a dive, you can jump right into it, is definitely sound advice. Obviously, the challenge is always, how do I take my current income with my expenses, because we're always overextended in the United States. How do I take what I make and take a portion of that and squirrel it away so I can be ready? That's always a challenge, but part with your money,
So I guess something that somebody asked in the comments was, how do you feel about 529s or educational saving accounts?
So a 529 plan is a short-term 401k. You're not being taxed on it. You're putting the money aside. But when your child gets ready to go to college, if they don't decide to go to college, let's say they go military, let's say they go to trade school, you can pull a portion of that 520 money out, but it has to be used for college funds. Because it's not taxed, yes, it's a big benefit. Personally, I still think you're going to get a bigger bang for your buck when you take that money and you put it in something that has more
higher return investment.
You go to use it. Well, the challenge is when you go to use it, it has to be used for a specific purpose, and that's it.
Right.
So if you don't use it for that purpose, now you get hit with the taxes that you didn't pay plus a penalty.
Yeah.
So the challenge with those is you're banking on the concept that this child will go to college regardless. And is college beneficial? Yes. You need that piece of paper nowadays if you want to go in the career path. But if they decide to go a different direction, you're going to get hit with a bunch of unknown penalties that you weren't expecting. So, and you can only use a portion of it for books and a portion for other pieces. So if you're really going to go 529, I would want to understand the nuances of it before than just, putting money. It's kind of like a 401k or an IRA or a Roth.
Right.
You guys set up Roth.
Oh, 100%. Yep.
you've already paid the tax on it and your current income tax level, set up a Roth. You have far more control when you get to a stage like 59 and a half when you're ready to actually pull that money out. So it really just depends on that family prognosticating. My child is definitely going to college concept. So that would be my 2 cents. Really understand the finer details of that 529 plan so that you're making a sound decision.
Yeah,
for sure.
And something you were talking about, Paul, earlier was how you're talking about how people need to manage their income versus their expenses. And that's something that we actually had a video on that Robert talks about too, is I've noticed, and it's crazy, a lot of people in the United States live way above their means. And that's one of the problems is they need, instead of that, they should have their income higher and then their liabilities, at a lower amount. So then they have that extra cash flow that they can save. So you can, earn the money, keep the money, and then multiply the money in an asset vehicle so you don't have to work for a long period or a long duration of your life, so you can set yourself up. But a lot of people live above their means. They don't know how to build credit. They don't know how to invest. They don't know how to, the proper ways of investing in the market or just, in financial education period. And I think that's something that our government, not mainly our government, but even our education system fails to teach. Like, I think even when you were a kid, Paul, maybe you can back me up, maybe I'm wrong, but they don't teach us about taxes. They don't teach us about money at all. They don't teach us about building credit, any of that stuff in our education system. And you'd think, since it's some of the most important things in life to need to know to be able to, live a good life or just live in life, period, you think they teach it and implement it into our school system, but they don't.
And so it's kind of crazy because I was thinking about this the other day. I kind of was just like, dang, they really don't teach us, really anything. Like I did a stock class in my junior year in high school, and I was sitting there thinking, and he always told me, he goes, watch where you get advice from, watch out who you're getting X, Y, and Z from.
Mm-hmm.
But yet he couldn't sit there and tell us how to read a balance sheet. He couldn't sit there and teach us, I guess, the difference between the Dow, the S&P 500, etc. But yet he said, oh, this is a good stock to get. This is a good stock to get. This is a good stock to get, etc. Like, he just kept going down a list. And I sat there and I was just like, damn, did I love that teacher. But I mean, he knew nothing he was talking about, especially looking three years now back from it. And it's funny because they sit there and they tell you, watch who you get your information from. And I think that kind of applies with anything that we learn in school. And it's kind of like, it's just the fact that they read out of a textbook, the fact that they sit there and say, watch what you read on the internet, do all this stuff. But yet we're learning from, I don't want to say like certain political views or sides or anything along those lines, but it's just like, it's always swayed either one or what, like two ways. And I just don't understand it.
And Cole,
it's so true. When like you had asked Brendan, and to go to your point, Cole, when I was in school, one of the things that I really loved was in my history, I think it was my American history class. But in one of those classes, we had an entrepreneur type of exercise. So we, as individuals, were assigned, start your own little business. What are you going to sell? And maybe it was in my economics class, but regardless, what are you going to sell? What are you going to, is it inventory based? Is it service based? And you had to do all these little make-believe, for lack of a better word, because we're in high school, numbers on trying to figure out what is the cost and things of that nature. It was a great exercise to go to your point, Cole, in regards to stocks. If you start looking as an individual business owner, if I'm going to make fudge and I got to buy the chocolate and sugar and the milk, and then how much time does it require, and then the wrapping paper and all of these factors to just sell one little block of fudge, how much of the weight of it and all these little factors. Then you look at a balance sheet from a company's perspective. How much capital do they have on hand? It gives you a clear perspective of, I'm investing in this company and they're way over in regards to capital compared to what their actual profitability is. So when you look at who you're reading and who you're learning from, you're absolutely right. It would have been great in school to understand some of these key points of balance sheets, their ROI, these indicators that are so critical to understand. Is this an investable company? Should I be buying their stock? Those little simple things would make a world of difference.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. So I guess I was kind of funny because we were talking about it, and I kind of had the same analogy. Basically, when I was in school, is that they always like taught us in the like this. It was a stock class / business class kind of thing, but they always taught us that basically, this is how much things cost, right? And this is how much if you have X, Y, and Z. But I never understood that what they never told us is if a company doesn't have cash on hand and a company's failing for, let's say they're a newer company and they're 5-6 years in, and they don't have that cash on hand. They don't have that, they're not creating that revenue, right? They're not a positive company, and people I just see over time and time again, like we talked about earlier, the AMC and the GME and all that is they're buying failing companies, and it's and I know especially as a college student now and people coming out of college, they think that investing on Robinhood is the end all be all. I mean, the investing on Webull and stuff like that makes them pros. It's kind of just like you sit there and you can't help but laugh, but kind of just you want to help them out, but they're like, oh, I returned 7% in a year. That's amazing, And it's just like you sit there and you're like, well, yeah. You do you, buddy. But yeah.
Well, the average is what, 10%, I believe. It's the average
12
return on investment, 10 or 12% or something.
Yeah.
But what you were saying earlier, Cole, and by the way, for the people watching, sorry about that, my camera cut out. But for the people watching, and something that's huge is any of the information you want is now available online. And like when our parents were growing up, or when Paul was growing up, they never had access to the internet like we have, where you can pretty much learn the fundamentals and all the education you need to know on the internet. Like you can learn a lot of things on the internet. Now, obviously you have to be, watch where you're getting your sources and your information from. But it's all readily accessible if you just put in the time and effort. So that's why here we try to, provide people with the right education and, give them those proper steps and foundation to build, and have a good future and financial future as well. So,
yeah. So I guess kind of diving into what I was saying about, early investors, guys that are in college, guys that are just getting out of college. What would you have done differently if you were 18?
Oh, great question. And I think actually Brendan asked me this when I met him initially, and my response is still the same. You want to invest in yourself. So what I mean by that is when we have our income, or when we have our friends, or when we have our family, if we don't invest in ourselves first and allow ourselves to grow, then we can't be a benefit to others. So let's take our income. When your expenses come in, the first thing you want to do with your income is take a percentage of that and put that towards your investments. We will always live within our means. If you're making $1,000 a month, your expenses are going to be $1,000 a month. But if you take 200, and you're able to, obviously, because your expenses are now currently 1,000, but if you're able to take 200 and put that into your investments a month, somehow within 3 to 6 months, magically, your expenses wind up being $800 a month. You don't go out to eat as much. You don't go drinking on the weekends. Whatever the case may be, you start living within your means. So if you don't invest in yourself first, that would be the first thing I would tell them. Always invest in yourself first. And the reason why is we don't work to make money. We work so that we can make money, so the money that we make can make money on itself. We've got to make money with the money that we have. Otherwise, we will always work.
Yeah, that's something I preach too, Paul, is try to get your passive income higher than your earned income. That's always been my goal overall, is to get that passive income higher than my earned income. And you can do that by acquiring assets, and especially at a young age, like you were saying, and investing in yourself, your education, and all the things you need to utilize and set yourself up for that future.
Yeah, and I think me and Brendan as a whole, I think definitely we definitely have good positive influences around us, especially with my parents and his parents, and kind of just everything along those lines. It was kind of just like we always heard, invest in yourself. Like what can we do? I guess our always end all questions was, what can we do to create financial freedom for ourselves, not only at a young age but into the future. And I think we've always heard that term is invest in yourself. And I can't stress importantly to the viewers how important it is to invest in yourself, because I mean, 6 months ago, we were sitting here playing PlayStation and video games all day. But now we're out here. We built a company and we're sitting here, and
that's the second thing.
Yeah. We're sitting here and we're just, grinding out content all the time. We're sitting here, updating our website that, by the way, is going to be launched tomorrow. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And it will be Sunday, the July 18th. If you're watching this later in advance, it will already be out if you're watching it, but appreciate all that. But yeah, so I guess diving into what you said, your second point was creating a business. It's not as easy as it sounds, but if you come up with something, like we say, something that people need more than people want. Like, for an example, people need to learn about financial education. You have to be financial literate in order to really be successful in the world right now. So I want you to dive back into your second point you were saying, Paul.
Yeah. So a couple of, when it comes to your friends and your family, and then I'll cover the last piece, which is work. So friends and family, if you meet anybody and you ask them, show me your 5 best friends.
Yep.
By those 5 best friends, I can pretty much describe who you are as a person.
Yes, sir.
So if your 5 best friends are high quality individual, you're a high quality individual. If your 5 best friends are your drinking buddies, that's what you are. You're part of the drinking buddy crowd. So if you've got people around you that are driving you to be more successful as an individual who you are, that's what you're looking for. So take a good look at your own self and say, hey, I got 5 close friends and they're hilarious and they're great people, but they're not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that's the path you're headed. So that's another part of investing in yourself, is who you hang around with is critical. Who you read, who you socialize with, who you consider are your close circle, that's critical. And then the last piece is if we look at the word job, it's an acronym, and most people don't realize this. JOB stands for just over broke. and when you look at most people, that's why we live paycheck to paycheck. So you got to create something that you have control over, like you guys have. If you don't start something for yourself, you will always be just over broke, because it's so challenging to take the mindset of, I'm only bringing in $1,000 a month and this is my income and I have to invest myself, but I'm limited because I'm only bringing this in. If I have other sources of income, if I have another hustle, if I have something else that is driving my financial future, I'm not going to be just over broke.
Yeah, and I feel like kind of the big misconception right now is all this drop shipping, this doing all these things that are okay. I'm not going to say they don't work, because they do work, right? There are successful people that drop ship. There are successful people, that create income through other sources. But I mean, us just as well as much, a lot of those people that do drop ship create courses and other things along those lines, and that's where they generate their money, because people are so wanting to know, oh my god, he got $1 million in a year, how does he do that, off just sitting at his computer. It's not always as simple as it seems. So
something I've noticed too, Cole, is it goes back to our generation, and maybe you can agree with me or disagree, Paul, but it's a lot of our generation wants that instant gratification. They want that get rich quick, when really there's not much of a get rich quick. A lot of those, like you were saying, the drop shipping, I'm not saying they don't work either, but a lot of those, I've heard some people that I know get scammed from things like that. And back to Paul, what Paul was saying is, it's funny because my parents used to always tell me this, and I always used to blow it off, but now I agree with it 100%. My mom used to tell me too. She says, you become a part of what you're around. And I couldn't agree with that anymore, because like you were saying, and even Dan Pena, he said, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And I couldn't disagree with that statement anymore, because like you were saying, the 5 closest friends or the 5 people you hang around are eventually what you're going to become. And that's why you need to, surround yourself with, the right people and have the right friend group, so you can, obviously, just do better in life and be surrounded by the right people.
And I mean, especially with the viewers watching this, I mean, it's a lot easier said than done. Eliminating a friend, eliminate a best friend, whether, he's grown up with you all your life and then he decides to be, let's say your drinking buddy, right? For an example, it's so hard to eliminate a friend like that. And I think the biggest thing you have to do is either, have a talk with him and kind of explain to him, hey, this is the path I want to go down. And if you don't want to go down that road, I'm going to have to leave you in the dust. And I think me and Brendan both had a friend kind of like that. And it's a lot easier said than done. And I'd say for me especially is sometimes you don't always need 5. Sometimes 3 is the best. And sometimes even 1 best friend is the best way to go, because that person will always have your back no matter what.
Yep. And it's so true, guys. You want to start with that one close person that's pushing you, somebody that's competitive against you, somebody that's got your back, that's going to drive you. If you do have 3 or 4 close friends, and one of them is that individual that you're kind of on the fence of, man, is this person, when I hang around them and they're bringing me down, but the other 3 aren't, get that person involved with the group.
Right.
The group is either going to make that person rise up, or that person's going to say, you know what, I really don't fit in this group. And they will eventually either change and improve themselves and or decide to move on. If we don't have that mindset, the other concept that what I would have really loved to know at 18 was, today's a gift, tomorrow's a blessing. Yeah. If we don't look at today as, what am I doing? One of the things I've do with myself is I set all my clocks to 24-hour military time. Okay. And the reason why is, when you wake up and you look at the clock and it says 8 a.m., 6 a.m., whenever you wake up, and then now it is 1,300 hours, 1,400 hours. So from midnight to 14 hours have passed. What have I done in the 14 hours?
I like that.
When it's 6 o'clock, 18 hours have passed. What have I done in those 18 hours? And it kind of guides my life in the sense of, I want to accomplish as much as I can with the time I have. So that's another thing I wish I had started when I was younger. Time is so fleeting.
Yep.
We've had some great conversations, and 45 minutes have already gone by, and we don't even realize it. The time is so fleeting that if we can do little pieces of. The other thing I would say to myself when I was 18, make a list. It doesn't have to be 30 items. Make a list of 3 things, and those 3 things, get those 3 things done that day. If you get in that habit, it will change your life.
Yep. So I guess that kind of leads on to my next question that I wanted to ask you is, what are some of your most top successful tips that you've kind of over your last couple of years have really been like, wow, this has really helped me, kind of be who I am, not only as a person, but as, a businessman and an entrepreneur? Okay.
First thing, I'm not sure about your own spiritual affiliations. For me, God Almighty, when I put God first in my life, my mind, my heart is focused on doing what is best for others, not just myself. When I don't have a mindset of how am I going to make, quote unquote, myself successful, and I have a mindset, how am I going to be a better person for others, I have far more greater success. So that's first and foremost. Drive yourself to put the best that you can be for others will make you more successful. I think the second thing for myself is when I talked about that list, if I feel accomplished during that day, the next day I want to feel that much more accomplished. You hear about the runner's high, you hear about working out. You push yourself to do this because you feel better afterwards. Same thing when it comes to your life, your family, your relationships. With those lists, with writing down what you want to accomplish in that day, even those small incremental goals make a world of difference in changing your outcome over your lifetime, because you are accomplishing and you're making a positive trajectory. Typically what happens is we kind of get stuck in a rut, and either we go downhill or we stay average.
Right.
One of the things I share with my children is, what is the definition of average? And the real definition of average is you are really the best of the worst, or you are the worst of the best when you're average.
That's so
Wow.
true. Yeah,
And when
that's
you
so
think
true.
about that, you're just here.
Yeah.
And if you know you're down below, you've got somewhere to go. And if you're up here, you're obviously already striving. But you're in the middle and you're just kind of status quo.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially like people get in a comfort level, you know. They have that, you know, that average play around, right?
It's mindset too, Cole.
Yeah.
People don't have the right mindsets.
Especially if, you know, you're at the top, for an example. Let's say you're somebody like Grant Cardone, Robert Kiyosaki, etc. I can go on and on and on with names, but you have something to lose. People are coming after you. People are jealous. People are, you know, they want something that you have. And I feel like a lot of people get comfortable being average because they don't want to lose anything, but yet they don't have the effort and time and energy to gain something either. And I feel like if people had, like Brendan said, a better mindset on life and how, you know, you don't always lose something when you're on the top. You know, you've gained opportunities, but you've also gained experience along the way so that you can be successful at the top. And I feel like that's what's made some of these entrepreneurs who they are, not only for their motivational speaking and just their obviously what they do, but they know how to deal with the pressure and they know how to deal with the success. And I feel like as somebody that's, you know, I don't want to say average, but somebody that's in the middle class or maybe even in the lower class, they don't understand is that you learn along the way, and failure
Yes,
is the best
School
tool.
teaches you not to make mistakes, when really the way you succeed and the way, you know, most successful entrepreneurs and people in general, they fail a multitude of times and they learn from their failures. But you go to school in the education system, they teach you not to fail, not to make mistakes, not to try to make your own business, you know, care what other people think about you, you know, things like that. When really having failures is one of the best life lessons you can have, from, you know, obviously overcoming your failures and then learning from your mistakes.
For sure. And
I saw when you mentioned like Grant Cardone, Kiyosaki, if I assume you guys have read their books and have read their information, but you'll hear a lot about this from them. What makes somebody successful is obviously their internal drive, but they will always talk about the individuals that were with them along the way that helped them gain that success. So to go back to that mindset again is, if we drive ourselves to help others, we will have success. Grant Cardone, Robert, these individuals, many of them out there, they had key people that they also helped make very successful, because their focus wasn't just how am I going to be the best, so look at me. How am I going to help everybody around me? That's what's going to drive my success. So if I do my list, I make my accomplishments, everybody around me is going to be successful.
And I feel like especially with me and Brendan, I feel like especially my family, you know, they've been very successful in their life, and it's kind of with all their mistakes or their lessons that they've kind of have taught me, it's kind of allowed me to put a positive influence on Brendan, or whenever I'm a little negative, Brendan, he's gone through something that's kind of been positive, and that way he can, it's like a good rebound. So I feel like if you have, like we were going back to say, those, close friends, there is no reason that you guys shouldn't be in the position where you want to be. And,
Right.
It does come back to that mindset, and does come back to, where do you want to be? Have a plan, I feel like, especially people that don't have a plan, they're not gonna. They sit there and they wonder, why am I like this, right? Why am I making only $1,000 a month? Why am I not making 20,000 like them? It goes back to the thing of not having a plan. And I think the first thing to do, even when we were talking about what would you do different at 18, is sit down and figure out a plan. Where do you want
and write it down? Like Paul was saying, when you write down things, it's like statistically, I want to say it's like 20% or higher that you'll actually accomplish it, because you're going to wake up every day. You're going to see it written down. And, something too cool that you're talking about is, like our education system, they teach you not to fail, but not only do they teach you not to fail, they teach you not to have a group of friends, like Paul was saying, or other people in your life where you can work together to achieve the goal, or ask for help, or, figure out things together. Most people, I've noticed too, they try to do things on their own, where, like, for example, Cole, like if I'm making a YouTube video and I don't have time to upload it, you can work on uploading it. You have that other person there, where you can help grow the business with you, where when you're not there to, get it done, or you don't have time. And that's something that I think is huge. And, holding yourself accountable, like you were saying, what are your goals? Write them down. Have you been accomplishing your goals? And, take those small victories and keep working towards your end goal, so you can accomplish the things you want to accomplish. So I definitely think that's huge, and that's impactful. Well,
for sure. I guess kind of one more question I have for you is, what's your goal for the next 5 years? I guess obviously you're working with kind of consulting and working with financial advisors and things along those lines. What is kind of your goal, not only for investing in the next 5 years, but kind of in your work area?
Yeah, good question. So my primary focus is, am I setting myself up that when I hit my 5-year, my 3-year, my 10-year goals, am I past it, or am I at it, or am I below it? So, for instance, in the next 5 years, I've got younger children, and they're coming and finishing up high school. My goal is, in the next 5 years, to have all my expenses. I carry zero debt, so
that's awesome.
to obviously maintain that, to not be in debt, and that includes, like currently right now with my mortgage, theoretically it's debt only because it's at a place where the value of the house is equal to the mortgage of itself. So in the next 5 years, taking investments and putting into the home, whether I do it myself or hire people to do it, to raise the value of the house, so that when I do get ready to sell it, it's no longer a debt.
I do have one question, kind of to comment on that. Do you think there is a difference between good and bad debt?
Yes.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yes, 100%. So debt is
that could be the best tool or the worst tool. Don't you agree, Paul?
So, yes. You don't want to go into debt. So we don't want to mislead anybody that may be listening to this now. Or you never want to go into debt. But if you utilize some debt, so for instance, if I go take out a loan from a bank and the interest rate is very low, but from that loan, $1,000, $100,000, whatever that amount is, and I know from my business plan, because I laid out a very strategic business plan, or my existing business is already bringing in this type of capital, I'm going to turn that money into more money. So theoretically, that was debt, but I've just turned it into more money. So there are intelligent debt. Taking out a 27% credit card to invest in your business, that's bad debt. So if you, for instance, if I have a car that's 100% paid off and it drives great and there's no issue with it, getting another car just to have that status symbol, to me, that's bad debt.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, it's just another liability.
Now, smart debt would be I continue after I pay off my car and I put a $350 payment aside into a separate bank account, and I continue to make those payments until this car finally dies. Then I can pay cash for the next car or get a 0% loan because I have cash down. So utilizing your money intelligently. But if I already have a vehicle that's paid off, why do I need another one?
Right.
So yes, there is good debt, and yes, there is bad debt. There's investing debt. So for instance, what would be an investing debt, guys?
So
I guess investing debt, I mean, it's
Cole,
like you were saying too, like the rich, like something I've noticed too is Robert says, he says, why would you use your money if they're printing money faster than you can earn it, which is true. Yeah. So like you were saying, good debt and bad debt, the differentiation, obviously credit card debt's bad debt. Some good debt could be, look, I'm going to buy a $1.2 million real estate property that's 14 units that cash flows, appreciates, I can use as a tax write-off. And I'm leveraging my capital to the point where I can buy a large amount and have a large amount of wealth with $350,000 that's going to bring in that cash flow every month that I can pay down the debt. That's what, I've noticed Grant Cardone and Robert Kiyosaki like to say is, use other people's money and leverage your capital. But like you were saying, in an asset vehicle, that's going to increase your return on investment, because the average bank, what are they paying you? 0.0125% interest. And that's why Robert Kiyosaki likes to say savers are losers. The rich invest in assets and the rich don't work for money. Like you were saying, they try to acquire those assets. They try to get their passive income higher. And they do that by setting themselves up with the right financial education in the future that they desire and they deserve.
And I also feel like kind of like a big misconception is kind of what is wealth, right? What is wealth? Having $1 million in a bank account, does that make you wealthy? Or does wealth include having $5 to $10 million in assets, but only, $40,000 in a bank account? It's a big misconception, I feel, especially at a young age for anyone that's really in that 18 to 25 range, or even in the early 30s, is what is wealth? If somebody doesn't have, let's say, for an example, a business, or they're not in the entrepreneur, let's say they go to medical school for 8-9 years, right? They're in debt now. And they're going to make their money over time through the job, their job, right?
Yeah.
But, it's like, what is wealth to them at that point? Because you are at a state where you're $300,000 in debt now, and now you have to go work for the next 4 years to pay 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever it may be, to pay that off. So I feel like people also have kind of a mindset, oh my God, I'm so much in debt, I can't make anything happen. Like I can't just, be like Grant Cardone. I can't just be like Robert Kiyosaki. But I feel like it also comes back, like we've been saying since day one, the mindset. You got to put in the work, you got to put in time, and you got to do kind of what the 99% aren't doing. And I feel like to kind of go back on what you were saying, Paul, about there's average, right? And then there you have those two lines. It's either the being the best of the average or the worst of the average. It's kind of just like, if you want to be above average, you got to do what 99% of those people aren't doing. And if that means not partying on the weekends, and one of my biggest things that Grant Cardone says, the weekend is for the weak. True entrepreneurs, true people that have a business, have people that, that are always doing something to create that passive income, always doing something to generate any income at all, are not taking a break on the weekends. I find it really funny, and you guys can touch up on this, is how, why is Friday, Saturday, Sunday the drinking day? Like, why is it the Friday, Saturday, Sunday we party and we do things like that, right? For me, I don't party unless there's something to celebrate. And especially, I know me and Brendan both, we like, the weekend's not time to take off. The weekend's to get more stuff done, because that's usually more time that you have, because I feel like our whole, I don't want to say world, but kind of just the United States maybe as a whole has taken that Saturday, Sunday as, it's more of a chillax day, or Sunday's more of God's day, which it is, right? But you also have the opportunity to get so much more done. And people need to understand that just because it's Saturday and Sunday and it's the weekend, like, why are you being weak? Right? Why aren't you going out and doing something? And I feel like that's, something people need to hear.
Yeah, wealth is, you kind of defined it already, Cole. Wealth equates to time. Yeah. Wealth does not equate to money. If you have $1 million in a bank, but your expenses are $900,000, you're not wealthy. You still got to work. If you have $100,000 in a bank and you have zero expenses and zero responsible, expenses coming in, you have time on your hands. So if you can establish yourself where you have no debt, you have investable assets, you have this passive income, you've created time. So it's not an X amount of number. It's how much have you reduced your expenses and increased your passive income so you can gain time. And with time, that's where wealth comes in. Because now you can invest in yourself, you can invest in others, and you have the freedom to be able to do those things.
Yeah, Paul, and that's why I don't know if you've heard me say it, but Cole knows I say it all the time, especially on our podcasts and our videos, is that time is our best asset. Yeah. It can be your best asset or it can be your worst asset. What are you going to do? Are you going to waste your time? I know a lot of people our age, they're out partying, they're out drinking, like you were saying, and they're not setting themselves up. They're getting a whole bunch of, college debt or whatever they may be doing. Or, they're not thinking about what industry they want to do. They're like, oh, I'm young, I have time. When really, these are the most important years. Going back to what you were saying about a Roth IRA, this 18 through 25 are the biggest years of investing in a Roth IRA. I did the numbers on it, and it's about a $3 million differential from starting at the age of 25 to 59. It was about $2.5 million. And from starting at the age of 18 to 59 and a half, it was about $5 million. So you're losing out on all of that money just from not starting at a young age. And not only in a Roth IRA, but in your financial education and your investments and, what you're trying to do for a living. There's a big difference between, being fundamentally set and having that proper education in your first 5 years of after high school than, 10 or 20 years after high school. And most people, start figuring, oh, wow, this life thing is real. I need to get it together. Rather than doing that when you're first out of high school and having, the right proper framework and knowledge needed to succeed.
Yeah. And a funny quick story. I was at the gym yesterday and I was waiting for the machine and I was talking to this girl next to me and she was telling me how she was going to Stevenson College. And I was like, all right, that's cool or whatever. And then she sits there, she goes, yeah, she was like, she asked me what I was doing or whatever. And I sat there and then I was just like, yeah, I'm doing my business, da, da. And she sat there, she goes, oh, that's cool. She goes, I'm like, what do you do? And she's like, basically, she goes, yeah, I just work out and party. And she's like, I waste my life away. And she's like, she sat there and I'm kind of just thinking you just admitted you sit there and waste your life away. Why do you have that mindset kind of just thing? It's kind of just like when I hear people sit here and say oh yeah, all I do is party on the weekends, wake up, eat, work out. And it's just like, okay, workout's your thing, right? But why not, create a TikTok? Why not create a YouTube for working out? You're doing it already. Like, for an example, we're just a bunch of guys sitting here talking about finances and talking about, getting to understand Paul better, getting to understand, financial literacy better. And it's just like, why not do something? And then, if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But just keep doing your thing,
Yeah. Any person I talk to that works out, I say, look, that is awesome. You've got such a great motivation. What's the most important muscle in your body? If you're talking to a guy, they're going to think the wrong thing. If you're talking to a woman, they're still going to think the wrong thing. The most important muscle in the body is this.
Yeah.
What are you actually working out?
Mm-hmm.
If you're working out your muscles and you're not working out your mind, you're not going to go anywhere. So if you don't invest that time in your muscles as much in your mind as you do in your muscles, that one young lady, I mean, that's awesome. You hear at the gym, work on and you party on the weekends. What's the goal?
Right.
Is the goal just to look hot for the next dude? Work out your head. Everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. But yeah, so kind of just wrapping things up. Just a little things that we're headed to with tomorrow. We do have the launch of brotherhoodfinance.com. That will be out and ready, and we are coming out with merchandise. So Brotherhood Finance shirts. we're limited edition. We're also going to be coming out in the next couple months with sweatshirts, hats, things along those lines. If you want to cop any of those. But Paul, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for
thank you,
sharing.
Paul.
And
thank you guys.
Yeah, so I hope everyone has a great day. And is there anything you guys want to add before we go, Paul? Anything you want?
Real quick, guys. Make sure to again leave a like on down below. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps out with the algorithm immensely. I appreciate you stopping by Brotherhood Finance. And Paul, if you have anything else to say before we end it, again, we appreciate your time as always. Great job, Cole.
Thank you,
Paul, again.
You're welcome. Make sure whoever is listening to this right now, continue to educate yourself. This is a great resource. Use it. Don't just listen to it and don't apply it. Make sure whatever you listen to, apply it.
Yeah, and like just kind of finishing this off is what we give out is what we are doing. We are not saying, oh, do X, Y, and Z, and then not doing X, Y, and Z. Like our videos are meant to educate people. Our videos are meant to have an impact on people's life, not only mentally, but also so they have maybe a wake-up call saying, hey, I should probably do this.
Right.
So what we do here at Brotherhood Finance, we want to have an impact not only on people's lives mentally, but also on, hey, I might need to do this, and it all comes back to, like you said, investing in time and watching these videos. And trust me, I think 99% of people, if you ask them, would rather watch a video than read a book. So if you can sit here and watch Brendan on YouTube for 5-6 minutes tops, because that's all we post unless you watch one of our podcasts, I mean, you're going to learn more in that 5-6 minutes than sometimes 20% of your college does in a semester.
Or your whole college career, matter of fact, too. Speaking of that, too, 97.3% of our viewers are not subscribed. If you have not subscribed, go down and click the subscribe button.
That's crazy.
I was looking at those analytics yesterday. I'm like, 97.3% have not subscribed. That is outrageous.
Yeah.
So if you want to find more value, you want daily uploads, weekly uploads, again, make sure to smash that thumbs up button and click the subscribe button. Paul, I appreciate you stopping by. We found massive value out of all of your knowledge and wisdom. Again, executive marketing consultant, very knowledgeable man. Thank you very much for stopping by. Cole, thank you. Thank you again, everybody. And
have a blessed day.
Have a blessed day, guys. It was great, gentlemen.